Before starting the story, write in the comments section which country you belong to. The forests were wide and deep in the early days, when the rivers still ran clear and the winds carried stories from one village to another. In the land between the tall pines and the Great Lakes lived Hiawatha, a young leader of the Ojibwe people. He was known for his brave heart, calm voice, and the quiet strength that seemed to move with him like a shadow. His people trusted him, not just for his skill with bow and spear, but for the compassion he carried in everything he did. Hiawatha loved peace more than anything. He believed that harmony was not weakness, but the greatest form of strength. Many young warriors admired his courage, and elders respected his wisdom. Yet there was still a heaviness inside him, something unspoken. He felt as if the world was waiting for a change, something that would shape not only his own life, but the lives of all those around him. Across the river lived the Dakota people. Their village was filled with laughter, music, and the warmth of shared stories. Among them was Minnehaha, the daughter of a respected chief. She had a spirit as bright as sunlight on water and a kindness that reached everyone she met. Her voice could ease the hearts of grieving mothers and restless children. People said she had a gift, not only of beauty, but of healing. When Minnehaha spoke, even the troubled seemed to breathe more easily. Although the Ojibwe and Dakota people shared the same forests and rivers, their peace was fragile. Years of old misunderstandings and hurt memories lingered like smoke in the air. Leaders on both sides tried to protect their people, yet distrust always found a way to return. Still, there were moments of calm, moments when hunters crossed paths without raising weapons, or when traders exchanged goods and brief smiles. It was during one of these peaceful seasons that Hiawatha first saw Minnehaha. He had traveled with a small group to speak about shared fishing grounds along the river. The meeting was simple and polite, but what remained in his memory was not the words spoken, but the glimpse of Minnehaha as she carried baskets of water towards her people's lodges. Her movements were light, steady, and filled with quiet confidence. The river seemed to glow around her. Hiawatha felt something shift within him, something gentle yet powerful. Minnehaha noticed him too. She saw the way he stood slightly apart from the others, as if listening to things they could not hear. She saw the calmness in his expression, the patience in the way he waited for others to finish before speaking. Her heart warmed at the sight of someone who carried strength without pride and who looked upon the world with careful understanding. Weeks passed, then months. Peace held long enough that Ojibwe and Dakota paths crossed more often. Hiawatha and Minnehaha met again near the river one early morning. She was gathering herbs, he was checking fishing nets. The sun was low, turning the water gold. Their first real conversation was simple. Minnehaha asked, "You come early to the river?" Hiawatha nodded. "It is the quietest time. The world speaks more clearly when people are still asleep." Minnehaha smiled at that. "I feel the same. My father calls dawn the hour of truth." Their conversation continued naturally, like water finding its way around stones. They spoke of the forest, the weather, the stories of their elders. Nothing dramatic or bold, but each word built something steady between them. And when they parted, both felt the gentle ache of wanting to meet again. Over the following season, their meetings became small secrets held close to their hearts. They were never careless, never disloyal to their people, only two souls drawn toward each other in a world that did not always welcome connections across old boundaries. Each time they met, Hiawatha felt the weight inside him grow lighter. Minnehaha felt her world become brighter. With him, she felt safe, understood, valued not just as a chief's daughter, but as herself. One evening, under a sky full of stars, Hiawatha said quietly, "I wish our people could see what we see. There is no danger in this river, no enemy in this forest. Peace should be simple." Minnehaha's eyes softened. "I wish the same, but old wounds heal slowly." He turned toward her, and for the first time, their hands touched. It was a small moment, yet full of promise. They both knew they were stepping into something deeper, something that could shape the future of their villages, something that required courage. In the days that followed, rumors of tension began to rise again between the tribes. A small argument over hunting grounds, a misunderstanding between young warriors, whispers carried by the wind. Peace once more trembled like a branch in strong weather. Hiawatha felt time slipping away. He needed to speak to his council, to find a way to preserve the calm that had allowed something beautiful to grow between him and Minnehaha. She too worried that the fragile connection might shatter before it truly blossomed. But both held on to hope. Love was new between them, but it was steady. It had grown not from excitement or daring, but from patience, truth, and the quiet certainty that they had found something rare. Neither knew that the world around them was shifting far faster than either heart could prepare for. The summer that followed was unusually warm. The berries ripened early, the rivers ran full and clear, and the nights were so still that even the smallest sounds carried across the water. It was a season that should have promised only calm, yet beneath the beauty of the land, tension stirred like a hidden torrent. Rumors moved quickly between villages, an argument between hunters, the discovery of broken traps, footprints where they should not have been. Some believed these were accidents caused by the closeness of the tribes. Others believed they were warnings. Elders on both sides urged patience, but young warriors were restless, eager to defend pride even before knowing the full truth. Peace was still present, but it trembled. Hiawatha felt the unease each day. His council met more often, their discussions growing sharper as voices rose about whether they should prepare for conflict. He listened carefully, trying to steady wavering spirits. He reminded them of seasons when the Ojibwe and Dakota had traded food, shared stories, even hunted together. But fear can grow faster than reason, and some warriors no longer trusted the quiet across the river. During these unsettling weeks, Minnehaha became Hiawatha's strength. They met whenever it was safe, though no longer in the open. The river, once their peaceful meeting place, now felt watched by too many eyes. Instead, they found shelter under the tall cedar trees, where the ground was soft and the air carried the scent of sap and pine. Each meeting was filled with a mixture of joy and worry. Their love was growing, slow at first, then steadier, deeper. They spoke not in rushed whispers, but in thoughtful promises. Minnehaha shared stories of her childhood, her dreams of healing those who suffered. Hiawatha told her about the pressure of leadership, how every decision felt like a stone placed into a basket he alone had to carry. Sometimes they sat without speaking at all, simply sharing the stillness. Those moments felt like their own small world, untouched by conflict. Yet each time they parted, their hearts carried the heaviness of what waited outside their hidden refuge. One afternoon, when the sun glowed softly between the trees, Minnehaha arrived with a gift for Hiawatha. It was a small carving shaped from smooth river stone, two birds facing each other, their wings curved inward as if forming a shelter. "This is for you," she said, placing it gently in his hands. "My father carved pieces like this when I was a child. He said birds teach us about trust. They fly together even though the sky gives them no guarantees." Hiawatha traced the shape with his fingers. He said, "It is beautiful, but the meaning is even more so." "It means I believe in us," Minnehaha said softly, "even when the world feels uncertain." He looked at her for a long moment, moved by her courage. He said,
I believe in us too, more than I believe in anything else." Their closeness deepened in the following weeks. They spoke with the gentle honesty of two people who saw into each other's hearts without needing grand statements. They planned a future, imagining a time when their people might walk freely beside one another. They dreamed of peace, not as a distant idea, but as something they could build with patience, understanding, and love. Yet all dreams must face the world beyond them. Trouble reached a breaking point when a group of Dakota hunters accused an Ojibwe scout of sabotaging their traps. The scout insisted he had only followed a deer's trail and had touched nothing, but the argument grew heated, drawing a crowd until harsh words turned into raised weapons. No one was injured, but the encounter sent shock through both villages. When word reached Hiawatha's council, fear turned quickly into anger. Some leaders called for a warning to be sent. Others demanded a show of strength. Hiawatha urged calm, but suspicion had already rooted itself deep in the minds of those who felt danger lurking behind every tree. That night, the Ojibwe village held a tense gathering around the central fire. Voices rose into the dark sky as warriors argued about honor, safety, and old injuries that should have been forgotten but were never truly healed. The flames threw long shadows across their faces, making everyone appear weary and uncertain. Hiawatha felt the weight of every word. He knew that if the peace broke now, it would be nearly impossible to restore. He also knew that Minnehaha's heart would break along with his own. The thought struck him harder than any physical blow he had ever taken. He stepped forward, lifting his hand. He said, "We must seek truth, not anger." He said, the voice steady but firm. "We cannot act on fear alone. If we allow suspicion to guide us, we will lose more than pride. We will lose the peace that protects our children." Some nodded, but others muttered to themselves. One elder rose, leaning heavily on his staff. He said, "You speak wisely, Hiawatha, but wisdom does not erase danger. If the Dakota prepare for war, we cannot stand idle." A murmur of agreement spread through the crowd. Hiawatha bowed his head. He said, "I will meet with their chief. I will speak with him directly and seek clarity. We cannot let shadows become battles." His decision was accepted, though reluctantly by many. But the tension did not fade. It clung to the village long after the fire burned low, like smoke that refused to drift away. Later that night, Hiawatha left quietly to meet Minnehaha beneath the cedars. She sensed his worry even before he spoke. He said, "The peace is breaking." Minnehaha took his hand, her eyes filled with equal parts fear and determination. She whispered, "Then we hold on to it together. We don't give up. Not now." But even as she spoke, the forest around them carried a different story. The sound of winds warning of coming storms, of branches bending under pressure. A change was approaching, and though their love was strong, the world around them was beginning to shift in ways neither heart could stop.
The next morning carried a stillness that felt unnatural. Even the birds seemed reluctant to sing. Hiawatha walked along the riverbank, preparing himself for the meeting with the Dakota chief. He hoped it would bring clarity, perhaps even calm some of the fear rising between their people. But he also knew he walked into uncertainty, and uncertainty could shift like sand beneath the feet. The Dakota village greeted him with guarded silence. Warriors stood at the edges of the clearing, hands resting near their weapons, though none were raised. Hiawatha kept his posture peaceful, offering respect to the elders and acknowledging each warrior with steady eyes. Inside a large lodge, the Dakota chief awaited him. Chief Wapasha was a man known for his fairness, but even fairness could be clouded by the pressure of protecting one's people. His expression was stern, marked by too many sleepless nights. "Hiawatha," he said, "you come during uneasy times. I come seeking truth and hoping to protect the calm that has kept our people safe." The chief gestured for him to sit.
They spoke for a long time, their voices low but firm. Hiawatha explained the incident with the hunters, insisting that the scout had meant no harm. The chief listened carefully, but concern lay heavy on his face. "Our hunters are certain they were followed," Wapasha said. "They sense danger. The forest does not lie." "People's fears speak louder than the forest," Hiawatha countered gently. "We must not act on fear alone." The chief sighed. "You want peace. I want it too. But some of our young warriors believe your people watch us with suspicion." Hiawatha felt the ache of frustration. "Our young feel the same. This is how conflict begins, not with weapons, but with assumptions." They spoke until shadows lengthened inside the lodge. In the end, they agreed to send small groups to watch the forest together, to ensure no traps were disturbed, no accidents misinterpreted. It was a fragile solution, yet a hopeful one. But peace, once cracked, is far harder to repair than it is to break. Before Hiawatha returned home, Minnehaha approached him quietly behind the lodge. Her presence eased him instantly. Her eyes searched his face. "What did my father decide?" she asked. "He wants peace, but fear is strong among his people. Among mine, too." She stepped closer. "Then we must be stronger." He wished it were that simple. As they walked together along the quiet edge of the village, Hiawatha felt the eyes of several warriors following them. Not all were pleased with their closeness. Not all would welcome the idea that their tribes might move forward together. Minnehaha seemed to sense the tension. "There are whispers," she said softly. "Some believe we are the reason the forest grows uneasy." Hiawatha's brow tightened. "Love is not the cause of unrest." "I know," she said, voice trembling just slightly. "But whispers don't need truth to grow." A silence settled between them, heavy but not cold. Minnehaha reached for his hand, and he held hers firmly, grounding himself in the quiet strength she always carried. That night, Hiawatha returned to his village. But instead of relief, he found fear spreading like a fire that refused to die out. The scouts sent to patrol the forest had returned with troubling news. Unfamiliar footprints near the northern ridge, broken branches, signs of movement that did not belong to any known hunters. Many were convinced this was a warning from the Dakota. Others believed someone from their own tribe was stirring trouble to provoke war. Accusations rose quickly. Even elders who once spoke calmly were now sharp with worry. Hiawatha tried to study the council once more, but the fear was too thick. Warriors demanded action, elders questioned his hope, and children watched with wide, frightened eyes. That night, as he sat alone beside the dwindling fire, he thought of Minnehaha. He wondered if her village faced the same unrest, the same trembling in the air. He wanted nothing more than to see her, but their meetings had become risky. Even stepping toward the river could spark suspicion. Still, their love pulled them together like a tide that could not be turned. 3 nights later, Minnehaha braved the forest to meet him. She carried no torch, only her steady sense of direction and her hope. When she reached the cedar grove, she found Hiawatha already there, sitting with his head bowed. She knelt beside him. "You look tired." "I am," he admitted. "The world feels as if it is changing too quickly to hold." She brushed her fingers lightly along his hand. "Tell me." He told her about the footprints, the unrest in his council, the way fear had carved divisions even among those who once sought harmony. Minnehaha listened quietly, her face calm but her heart beating fast. "My father says people speak of danger," she said when he finished, "but he doesn't know who to trust. Some blame your tribe, some blame ours. No one sees clearly anymore." Hiawatha looked at her, his expression heavy. "The peace between us feels like a small flame in a storm." "But it is a flame," she whispered. and we must protect it." He took a slow breath, letting her words settle inside him. Her presence steadied him more than any council discussion could ever. "We may have little time," he said. "War grows closer each day." Minnehaha's eyes glistened in the moonlight, though no tears fell. "Then in this little time let us be brave," she whispered. They sat together, leaning into the moment, holding on to the love that had become their refuge. Hiawatha knew he could not abandon his people, just as Minnehaha could not abandon hers. But the future ahead of them felt like a path lined with thorns. Before they parted, Minnehaha said, "No matter what comes, remember this. You have my heart, not because of peace, not because of hope, but because of who you are. And I have yours. You are my calm in the storm." But as she left through the shadowed trees, both felt the storm closing in. Not a storm of wind or rain, but one of fear, pride, and the old anger that had slept too lightly between their tribes. When dawn arrived, it brought not light, but the distant echo of drums, the first sign that the storm had finally broken.
The drums echoed through the valley like a heartbeat turned fierce. Each strike carried fear across the land, shaking the branches and sending birds rising into the morning light. Hiawatha woke to the alarmed shouts of his people, the sharp sounds of warriors gathering, and the heavy dread that came with knowing the storm he had feared was finally here. The Ojibwe scouts had returned before sunrise with troubling news. A group of young Dakota warriors had been seen crossing the ridge, their faces marked for battle. No one had been harmed, but the scouts believed they were preparing for a confrontation. The council gathered quickly, voices rising with anger and fear. Some argued they should send warriors at once. Others wanted to defend the village before the Dakota could strike first. Hiawatha stepped forward, but even his steady voice could not quiet the panic. "We must not act out of fear," he said. "We must look for truth." But fear had already bloomed everywhere, roots deep and tangled. Some warriors questioned whether he had grown too soft, too hopeful, too trusting of the enemy. Even elders who once relied on his calm now looked torn between caution and the instinct to protect their people. Hiawatha felt helplessness settle inside him. His heart feared for his tribe, but it also feared for Minnehaha. She would be facing the same tension, the same rising storm. Her people would be preparing too, frightened and unsure. The day grew heavy with worry. Warriors stood alert at the village borders. Mothers kept their children close. Fires burned even in daylight, as if heat could chase away the possibility of danger. When night arrived, the sky hung low and clouded. Hiawatha could not sleep. His thoughts drifted again and again to Minnehaha, wondering if she was safe, wondering if she still held hope as he did. The longing became too strong, too painful to ignore. He left his village quietly and slipped into the forest. The path toward the cedar grove felt darker than ever, the branches whispering with tension. When he arrived, he found Minnehaha already there, her shawl wrapped tightly against the cool air, her eyes full of worry. "I heard the drums. They sounded across the river. My people are frightened. Yours must be too." She nodded. "Some young warriors want to prove their strength. They believe danger is the only language your tribe understands. Our tribes mirror each other. Both are afraid. Both are angry." Minnehaha reached for his hands, her touch trembling. "What will happen?" Hiawatha wished he knew. "War is on the edge," he said softly. "I fear a single spark will start it." Silence settled around them, heavy and heartbreaking. The peace they had built together, soft and patient, felt suddenly small against the weight of old grievances and rising tempers. Minnehaha leaned close. "Is there nothing we can do?" Hiawatha said, "We can speak with courage,
though uncertainty tugged at him. Her voice shook. "I am afraid." "So am I," he answered. The honesty between them was a fragile comfort. They knew this might be their last meeting for a long time, perhaps forever. Yet even in the fear, their hearts reached for each other. Before dawn, they parted reluctantly, each returning to their village with a heaviness too deep for words. The next morning, the world changed. A misunderstanding, small, fast, and tragic, sparked the fire everyone feared. A group of Ojibwe scouts encountered Dakota hunters near the ridge. Harsh words were exchanged. No one knew who moved first or whether the truth was twisted by fear, but a weapon was raised, and soon others followed. Shouts filled the forest, and the clash of conflict echoed across the land. By midday, both tribes believed the other had launched an attack. Warriors assembled, drums beat from both villages, fires burned. The forest, once a place of peace, now felt charged with sorrow. Hiawatha fought desperately to stop his warriors from charging forward. "We do not know what happened," he cried. "We must not walk into war without truth." But fear drowned out his voice. The young warriors, driven by pride and panic, rushed toward the border. Elders tried to stop them, but failed. Across the river, the Dakota prepared too. Minnehaha stood near her father, begging him to wait, to send a messenger, to speak before fighting. But the young Dakota warriors pushed forward, determined to defend their honor. Hiawatha saw them first. Shadows between the trees, weapons drawn, hearts driven by fear. He ran toward the clearing, shouting their names, raising his arms to stop the violence. At the same time, Minnehaha ran from her side, calling out for the warriors to stop, calling Hiawatha's name. But the forest was full of chaos. A young Ojibwe warrior, startled by movement, released an arrow meant as a warning. It flew too fast for anyone to stop. Minnehaha gasped and stumbled as the arrow struck her. The forest froze. Even the wind seemed to stop breathing. Hiawatha reached her first, falling to his knees beside her. Her breaths were shallow, her hand trembling in his. "Hiawatha," she whispered, her eyes soft even through the pain. "I'm here," he said, voice breaking. "Stay with me." She tried to smile, but the effort was fragile. "Promise me, you will keep seeking peace." He held her tightly. "I promise," he said, tears falling freely. "For you, always." Minnehaha exhaled slowly, her spirit softening like a fading light. The forest felt hollow. Both tribes watched in stunned silence as the young woman who had wanted only harmony lay still in Hiawatha's arms. Chief Wapasha stepped forward, grief etched deep into his face. The Ojibwe warriors lowered their heads. No one raised a weapon. No one spoke. Minnehaha's death became the truth neither tribe could ignore. War did not follow that day. Instead, both tribes set down their weapons, grief binding them in a way fear never could. Elders from both sides gathered, speaking with heavy hearts about peace, forgiveness, and the weight of loss. Hiawatha buried Minnehaha near the cedar grove where they had first spoken of hope. He carved the image of two birds on her stone, wings curved inward, sheltering each other forever. Seasons passed. The wounds between the tribes healed slowly, but they healed. Stories of Minnehaha spread across the land, not of her beauty, but of her kindness, her courage, her hope. And Hiawatha carried her memory with him always, living each day with the promise he made to protect peace, no matter how fragile it might be. Their love, though brief in the world, became a light that guided two tribes away from a path of destruction, a love strong enough to outlast war, a love that turned sorrow into peace.